I'm here with Melissa Fleming, the Undersecretary General for Global Communications, and we're going to talk about a little topic called disinformation today. I'm wondering how the UN approaches tackling the rampant disinformation that the world is dealing with today, and in terms of how does it approach addressing how disinformation impacts its priorities, such as climate change and conflict resolution?
I mean, first, I think it was just recently a recognition to the extent beyond the kind of anecdotal, alarm that we kept hearing from our colleagues in peacekeeping missions, in humanitarian settings. People are just promoting the SDGs, that disinformation and really just, I would just call it toxic information ecosystems, are having a detrimental effect on their ability to carry out their work and trying to make their communities better and further UN goals. So there was a wake-up kind of situation in the UN. It's been coming, but I think we all realize we can't just better our communications, which we try to do, and try to be in those digital spaces where disinformation and hate speech is traveling. But we also need to up our own advocacy and call on the stakeholders, those responsible for not just the disinformation themselves, but for allowing it to circulate, for allowing it to dominate our discourse. And so that's what we've been working on, and I'm happy to describe it more.
Yeah, are there any specific UN priorities that the rampant spread of disinformation is having a particularly negative impact on?
Every single one, I would say. I mean, our priorities are peace and security, human rights, development, and climate action. And in every one of those areas, we're finding disinformation is leading people astray, because we can't accomplish any of these goals. We can't, bring about and generate stability in fragile environments if populations are turning against our peacekeepers as a result of lies being spread against them online. We can't make progress on climate change if people are being led to believe, first of all, that maybe it doesn't even exist, or that it's not as bad as they thought, or that it's actually too late and there's nothing that they can do about it. So the UN alone cannot tackle these problems without civil society, without people. And the people are what, drives political agendas. And so it's really important for us to work on our information ecosystems together.
There's a lot of distrust in major institutions, with the media at the top of the list, the UN as well. And I think most of us in journalism, I'd like to think, are trying to do our best to provide accurate, fair information to people. We make mistakes like anyone, but we're doing our best. Still, the distrust remains. How can we rebuild that trust?
No, trust, I think, is fundamental to everything. If people don't trust the information, especially if it's from even reliable sources of information, sources that people once used to turn to and say, if I read, hear, watch that, I will be informed. And there will be a certain kind of fact base across society, because everybody is agreeing on the same fundamental facts. We've lost that in the digital age. We've lost that with any individual being able to claim that he or she is a journalist, with news sites springing up that are not really actual news sites. They're propaganda platforms, but disguise themselves as being news sites. And people, addicted to social media algorithms are, don't have the attention span to really go and dig and look. So it is a challenge. But the good news is, I think it's become so bad that we're seeing people actually turning back and saying, actually, I want to go and at least go back to my trusted source of information. And we're seeing some news organizations figuring out financial models that are making sense. People need to pay for journalism, perhaps, and with subscriptions. But anyway, that's one thing. The other thing is, we need to ensure that, that journalists continue to uphold the ethics of their profession. And with that, trust will follow.
So I want to turn to AI, which is obviously and unfortunately closely related to the topic of disinformation. AI is a tool, and like any tool, it can be helpful or harmful. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of the harmful impacts of AI with issues like deep fakes. How is the UN working to tackle issues like this?
We've spent a lot of time also trying to educate the public on how to spot mis and disinformation and how to tell if a photo is real or if it is fake. In the AI information age, that's going to become nearly impossible. And then there's that deniability thing. Even if a journalist does uncover and does a really great investigative piece of work, and that person who is the subject can just say, this didn't happen, it's all AI. So it's going to have an influence, it already is, on this kind of atmosphere of distrust. And so we're calling on AI actors to really create safety by design, and don't leave it only to the users to be able to try to figure out how to navigate this. They are designing these instruments, and they can be part of the solution.
Well, thank you so much for your insights on this really important topic. Thanks everyone for being here.